Welcome to the Doing Life Together podcast brought to you by Arch Impact Studio. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Owen.
I'm Eli.
And I'm Evan.
Awesome. This episode, we're excited to talk to you about social media. So I just started a book called The Anxious Generation. It's a book about how we've changed the way that kids are growing up. And one of the big changes is access to the internet, specifically social media. So I thought there were some interesting things in there that were worth talking about. The key theme for the episode is that there's lots of opinions and perspectives about social media and the impact on the way we experience life and how we experience people around us. And we just want to talk about how we've used social media. We're going to share 4 different perspectives. I'm a non-digital native, which means I was alive and grown up before the internet, believe it or not. And then each of the guys took a different approach to joining the social networks. So we'll do our random question. I'll talk about sort of how our family, we had some rules about social media. Then we're going to talk about our personal experiences. We'll talk about a couple things from the book, The Anxious Generation. And then we'll go to our key points. I just want to remind everybody, this is our perspectives based on our life experiences, and that doesn't mean it's going to guarantee to work for you. But we do think that your best life is lived when you consume content like this and evaluate for how it is the wisest way to apply it to your unique life. So these are our experiences. We stand by them, but hopefully you can find some nuggets to be helpful from it. All right, Eli, let's go with the random question of the day.
If you could remove something that exists in this world forever, what would it be? I'm going to go with mosquitoes.
Good call. Why mosquitoes?
They're just annoying and they don't really do anything. So,
is that true? I know you're well researched. Are mosquitoes really just annoying and don't do anything?
I mean, they like feed stuff, but they don't really do anything else, really.
Gotcha. All right. I was going to go with poison ivy. I am so terribly allergic to it that, like, even if I see it, I get it. And I don't think it does anything other than make people itch. So I'd give it a poison ivy.
Probably ticks.
Ticks, another good one.
You guys took all the bugs. I don't know. I'm going to get rid of evil.
It's very philosophical.
That's a legal answer. That is not a legal answer.
Why not?
I don't know.
Evil.
What was the question?
A thing.
If you could remove something that exists in this world forever, what would it be?
Is evil not a thing that's in this world?
Just pick something else.
See?
Well, here, how about this? If he got rid of evil, would that also get rid of mosquitoes, ticks, and poison ivy? Are those things inherently evil, or they just are and they're annoying?
I don't know.
It's just annoying.
I wouldn't say they're inherently evil.
I think we're going to let the evil stand as an acceptable answer. All right, let's talk about social media. So social media is relatively new, believe it or not. It didn't really get, according to this book, The Anxious Generation, it really didn't rise in popularity till around mid-2000, like 8 to 10 range. So that means at the time of recording, it's only been around for 14 years in the way we think of it today, which is crazy. So that means that like I said, I grew up without it. I technically grew up without having, where most families didn't have a computer in the home. And then eventually they did. So by the time I was in like late high school, college, everyone started to get computers. But so I remember a world without the internet, which is crazy. We talk about social media specifically. So as parents, we had some rules, so we'll talk about those. So our view was that it's new and it's novel. It kind of mean the same thing, but we had no idea what really was going on. So we were slow to start using it ourselves, and then certainly took that approach with our kids too. We asked ourselves the question, what is the value of being 100% connected to the world around you? Like at all times. So with the internet, with social media, with smartphones, and for the longest time we said there is no value. So as as we had kids, we always started from a position of the answer is no. Help us understand why it should be what. And a lot of that was also based on the fact that this is a fun stat. Did you know that people living today experience more bad news in one day than your great grandparents experienced in a lifetime?
Really? Well,
Yeah. So like throughout the course of your one day, you will know about more negativity and bad things than your great grandparents knew their entire life, which is just crazy. As we were thinking about it, we're like, is cyberbullying a real thing? Maybe, maybe not. Are there perverts out there trying to take advantage of children? And will that happen to our kids? Maybe, maybe not. Are kids going to get addicted to the device? Maybe, maybe not. Are they going to discover porn? Maybe, maybe not. Am I promising that bad things are going to happen if the kids get on social media early? No. But is there enough good things that are going to happen by doing it that we should just say, let's go for it? And the answer we came up with is no. So that's kind of where we started. And then you guys got old enough to start having questions and wanting it. And so we sort of introduced choice and incentives. And so basically what we said is that mom and dad are willing to pay you guys a meaningful amount of money if you don't get on social media till you're 16, and then an additional sum of money if you waited until 18. Is that how you guys remember it?
Basically, yeah.
Basically, yeah. And then so we came to you and said, you get to choose. But I think that was still, and how old were you when we gave you that option?
probably like 14, somewhere in there.
What about you guys? You remember?
Well, if he was
Yeah.
14, then I was 12.
I don't think you had the option at 12, though. I think.
Oh,
you
like
still
when I had the option to.
Yeah.
Oh, probably like 14. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say.
All right, awesome. So we at least waited till you were 14 before we gave you the choice. And the choice was you can wait till you're 16 and get a meaningful amount of money, or you could do it now. And then when you got to 16, if you said no, if you had waited that long, we said, okay, now that you're 18, or you can now wait till you're 18 and get additional money, or you can keep the money that you got for waiting till 16 and move on from there. And so let's pause there. Well, we'll start with the oldest kid, Owen. Owen, what decision did you make?
So I ended up deciding to get social media and not get any of the money.
So as soon as you were given the option, you said, I'm all in.
Well, I didn't, not as soon as I was given the option. I think I waited almost a year. So I think it was like a couple months before my 15th birthday, I finally decided that that's what I wanted to do.
Okay. And what led to you deciding that the meaningful amount of money wasn't worth it, that you'd rather be on social?
I had this feeling that I was missing out on something because I just gotten through high school, my first high school sports season, and like the group chats and all of that stuff was on Snapchat. And so I just felt like I was missing out on being involved in that. And then I had basketball getting ready to start up, and they had just made a group chat on Snapchat. So I was scared to miss out again. So I ended up deciding to just get social media.
So you're saying your sports team's in a bit of fear of missing out.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Next up, we'll go with Eli, next oldest. Eli, what decision did you make?
Ended up waiting until I was 18 to get anything, so I'd get all the money.
And what went into you making that decision?
I just, like Owen was saying, some people like to use the group chats on there, but that's just Snapchat. And outside of Snapchat, I didn't really see any point of like Instagram or anything like that. So it just didn't seem beneficial for the most part. And then whenever I was not in a group chat because I didn't have Snapchat, people would just message me outside of it. So I still got most of the information I needed.
All right. So I do want to make sure that we understand. Did you have a smartphone even before the social media?
Yeah.
Yes. Eli, smartphone, even though you didn't have social media, yes or no?
Yeah.
All right. Evan, what was your decision?
I waited until I was 16 so I could get the first amount, and then I got it.
Okay. And what went into your thinking about 16 was the right time?
I had like a similar idea to Owen where felt like I was missing out on things, but then I also like to spend my money, so I never really had much. So I was like, if I wait until I get this large amount of money, then I can spend it or save it and also have social media. So I went with that.
All right. So all three of you said that in some regards you felt like you were missing out because conversations were happening on the social medias. So now that you have them, do you feel more connected in those ways?
I would say that I feel a little bit more connected, but not too much. Like I realized I wasn't really missing out on that much information. Like my life didn't change too much once I got it. But one thing it did help me stay connected with was like people that I normally wouldn't text or like communicate with, I don't know, outside of school. I now like will use Snapchat and have some conversations with them that I wouldn't have had if I didn't have any social media.
So what you're saying is that maybe in your experience, it allowed you to be in touch with the greater population, like the whole group, but your other, like your friends, like the people you were specifically friends with.
Yeah. Nothing really changed that much.
Nothing really changed that much. Okay. What about somebody else? What do you think?
Can you say the question again? Our computer was spazzing whenever you said the question.
Yeah. The question was, you talked about fear of missing out was one of the reasons you eventually did it, or even though if you waited, you still felt that. Once you had it, what did that really feel like?
I think I agree with Owen for the most part. Like it made communicating with some people easier, but like those were mainly just like he was saying, the people that you're just kind of friends with or more acquaintances than anything. Anybody who I was like really friends with, I just had their number, so I was able to talk with them anyways.
So you were still able to stay in touch because you had your phone, regardless of anyone else. All right, Evan, you got a different perspective?
No, I think they're pretty accurate with what they said.
Awesome. All right. What about, do you know any people who still don't have social media?
No.
No.
Not really, no.
I think one of my friends in college didn't for a while, but then, or I don't even know. I think everybody has it. Yeah.
So I think that's important. The reason I asked that question is because it is important to recognize that at least in a middle class group of people, almost all of the people your children are going to interact with are going to be on some form of social media. So that just means that the fear of missing out can be a real thing. So you got to be sensitive to that. Parents, when you think about it, you got to be sensitive to that. There really are going to be things that your kids aren't going to have access to if they're not on it. All right. What about, what are some of the more popular social media channels these days? Or apps, I guess I should call them.
Instagram.
I'd say,
and Snapchat.
yeah, almost everybody has Instagram and Snapchat, I'd say.
A lot of people also have TikTok, but yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'd say
Yeah.
those three for our generation are huge. And then for like older generations, Facebook is obviously massive, but Twitter, I guess, or X or whatever it's called now, I'd say those were probably the biggest ones that I know.
So you said Instagram, Snapchat, TikTok, X, which is formerly Twitter. Do you feel like having a variety of them is important? Like, is it necessary to have so many? Like, do you guys use them for different purposes? Or like, I know they're designed for different purposes. I'm not ignorant, but do you really find yourself using them differently?
I think people use Snapchat just to communicate with people. And then Instagram, they just make like posts about things they do or vacations or whatever. So I'd say people do typically use those for different purposes. I'd say Facebook a lot of similar stuff as like Instagram. And then at this point, TikTok, basically every form of social media has their own version of like TikTok on it at this point. So
yeah, because there's like Snapchat Spotlights is like TikTok, Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, all of that. Like every site has made their own version of TikToks. So for me, the only two that I truly use are Snapchat and Instagram. And Instagram, I will use I use it as like a news source, kind of just like because of the pages I follow, like I'll get a lot of sports information or like national or global news. And then also like I'll use that Instagram Reels instead of TikToks. And then Snapchat, obviously, just to communicate with friends and group chats and stuff like that.
I'm pretty much the same as Owen with like Instagram and Snapchat, but then I also use X just for baseball stuff, like recruiting and stuff like that. That's the only thing I really use other than Instagram and Snapchat.
Oh, that's a good point. Let's talk about that. So social media. So we've talked about it on previous episodes. That's right. There are multiple episodes of this podcast about travel sports and college decisions. We were big time athletes. Two of you decided that high school was the end. Evan is still considering what happens next. But that recruiting piece, like the digital footprint, when you guys are interacting with social media yourselves or your friends, does it ever occur to you that the internet is forever and that whatever you put out there, anyone could possibly find? Is that something you're consciously aware of?
yeah, I just don't do anything stupid.
Yeah.
Like it's pretty simple.
I rarely ever comment or do anything like that because I don't know. It's just not something that I find joy in. But like if I were to ever, it's definitely something that would come across my mind because obviously that means anybody can see it or anything I would post or stuff like that. It's just definitely something that you think about, even if it's not for it's staying forever. It's just even in the moment, people will still have to see it. And you never know who will see it. So
got it. And then you mentioned commenting. So have you seen ridiculous things on the internet? Or on social media? Like I'm not saying you said you haven't partaken, but just have you been hit with the shrapnel of ridiculousness or odd things just by being out there?
I feel like anytime I open the comments section, like almost without fail, you will find both sides of like if the post is about, I don't know, whatever, you'll find both sides of the argument for it, like all throughout, even if it's the most ridiculous thing ever. And there are definitely some people out there just trolling, trying to get other people to comment and stuff like that. But so I've definitely seen some ridiculous things, but it's hard to figure out what is satire and what is serious. But
I think that's an interesting point. So if you're using a lot of social media, it's not necessarily the content itself that can be off-putting or frustrating but it's the comment section. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. Would you guys agree? Like you can do a decent job of finding decent content, but if you go to the comments, that's where it falls off the rails.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. What are some other dangers that you think people should be aware of when it comes to social media for just specifically for young folks? You guys always say you never get to go. Owen always goes first. So I'm
all right.
Since he's here in the room, that's right. Owen is back from college. We're on a 2-camera setup. If you're not on YouTube, check us out on YouTube. You can see Owen and I hanging out. What are some of the other dangers or downfalls that people might experience or you've experienced from being on social media?
I'd say it can be dangerous to compare yourself with other people on social media because like people are always saying it's only, for the most part, people only post the good things. So sometimes it can make it seem like your life is worse than someone else's, and that's not a good thing. And then also, it can just be a very big waste of time. You could be doing a lot more productive things than sitting on social media for hours, but it's very addictive sometimes to just scroll through your TikToks or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts or any of that.
So if we're creating a list, we would say avoid the comments section, stick to the content itself, try to avoid comparing yourself to others, but that's got to be really hard, right? Like, do you guys have any tips on how to not compare yourself?
Not really. I guess just like I was saying, just remember that's only the good things on there. So don't compare their best days with your worst days or anything like that.
Gotcha. And then a waste of time. Do you have any tricks or tools you use to try to limit the amount of time that you waste?
No, I waste a lot of time on there. So I don't even know.
I do too. For me, I'll tell myself, all right, this is the last one. But then, like, even then, it'll take me sometimes like 3 or 4 more where I'm like, all right, last one actually. And then I can finally just like get out. But like, it's definitely a struggle because I don't know. You just get in such a habit of just, all right, that one's done. Scroll to the next one. And then you see it, and people are getting so good at just hooking you in and making you want to watch the rest of it. So you're like, all right, I got to finish this. And then by the time the video's done, you forget you want to be done. And so you just scroll again. So it can be hard, but.
So if a parent is thinking about this situation, whether or not to let their kids have social media, would you say then having like time limits or restrictions or whatever would definitely be helpful to keep them from just spiraling?
It'd probably be helpful, yeah. I think time limits can be annoying though, just because if they're too extensive and like block off like the whole phone, there's situations where people need to do something or are trying to interact with friends and they can't do that. But I'm sure there's some way to make it beneficial.
I would agree. I think it could be beneficial. But like you were saying, sometimes you'll use all your time because you don't really think about what you might be doing later that day or something comes up.
So I said the part of this that I want to talk about was this book, like I said, The Anxious Generation by a guy named Jonathan. With the last name I can't pronounce. Haidt, Haidt, The Anxious Generation, How the Great Rewiring of Childhood is Causing an Epidemic of Mental Illness. So he says that there are 4 fundamental harms to the situation. One is sleep deprivation. Evan, have you ever experienced sleep deprivation because of your social media?
Not for a while, no. Maybe at the beginning.
Oh,
a
yeah.
little bit.
You used to be asleep on the couch anytime you were on the couch because you weren't getting enough sleep.
That is not because of social media.
Okay.
All right. What about Eli? Eli, sleep deprivation.
No. I just go to bed when I'm tired, so.
All right. Owen, sleep deprivation.
I'm sure there's been some days where I have, but I don't know.
All right. The second one, social deprivation. What are the chances that you have felt like your social ability to be social has gone down because of social media?
No.
No, I've not felt that at all.
Yeah, I only have Snapchat, and that's essentially just like texting, so no.
So are there other things that you guys have done? Because this is like, it's a research-based book, so this is true. Are there other things you guys have done to, although you have social media, not lose contact with the real world?
I just still like I enjoy doing actual stuff with my friends more than it. So most of the time I'm actually out doing stuff with my friends instead of just snapping them over and over again.
Got it.
Yeah, for like me, I'd say like being involved in sports and going to school and stuff like that, where I still see people like almost every day. So like just making sure that is like a priority instead of obviously interacting with people like through FaceTime or Discord or however you interact with people online is still awesome, and it's cool that we can do that from home, but in person is still definitely important.
All right. What about this one? The third of the four, attention fragmentation. Do you guys find that your attention span is different than it used to be? Eli, why are you looking at your brother like that?
Well, because I think I've noticed that in Evan. Because yesterday we were trying to play pickleball, and he's just sitting in the side of the court, dribbling the ball off the ground in the middle of a point. It just seems like sometimes he just is in his own world and not really focused.
I'd say the only time I really notice it for me is like sometimes in class where it's like something I don't really care about learning. And like normally I would want to stay focused just so I can learn it, so I know it for like a test or something. I'll be like falling asleep or feeling like I need to reach for my phone for some sort of, I don't know,
Stimuli.
stimulation and stuff like that. But,
all right. And then the final one, addiction. Do you feel like the way that a lot of this goes back to like the algorithm and the way the companies are set up and no, I shouldn't say the companies, the algorithm and the way the apps are set up, they can become addicting, right? Quick dopamine hits that get you to do more so you can get another quick dopamine hit without any real effort. Do you guys find that they're addicting for you?
I'd say once I start watching the videos, it can be hard to stop. But when I'm not doing it, I can't. It's not like I'm just focused on eventually watching more Instagram Reels or something.
yeah, I kind of agree with Eli, other than when I'm not doing anything or like I just have some time that I'm trying to waste, or like there's things that I could be doing that are more productive but aren't necessarily like a priority, then I often find myself just like subconsciously just turning to Instagram and choosing that to fill my time, which probably has some addictive role to that.
So you guys sound like you've had a slightly different experience than most of the people that are covered in this book. Would you say there are any things that you've done to make your experience different?
I have a time limit at night, so I go to bed earlier. But other than that, not really.
So an imposed deadline has been helpful.
I'd say like just the fact that I didn't get anything till I'm 18 probably helped me have a different experience.
Talk more about that. What do you mean?
Like, I don't even know. I'm sure like a 13-year-old on social media wouldn't do the same things on social media that I do. So it just like, I don't know. Just didn't grow up with it. So
the Anxious Generation book would draw the conclusion that because you waited longer, you had a more experience-based childhood. Those are my words, not the book's words. But you were out experiencing the actual world. So you did free play. You had traditional friendships. You figured out how to interact with the world, and that helped you, even once you get to social media, to have experiences outside of it. So
yeah.
Is that possible?
Yeah, definitely. I think that's kind of what I was trying to say. I just didn't know how to phrase it.
Yeah, like sometimes I don't know. I just like will think about it and be like, I feel like there's going to be a lot more issues that we haven't quite seen yet because it's so new. It's like our generation obviously is experiencing social media from a pretty young age, but I still feel like almost everybody I know didn't have it like as a child and still had those experiences growing up. Like we would go out and play outside like every day with our neighbors and interact with people. And so I think we still find a ton of joy in that stuff, like going out, and think it's a lot more enjoyable than just sitting on our phone. But I feel like some kids that are just now starting to grow up, we might see some of those issues where they don't want to be doing anything other than being on technology.
It's interesting because the year was 2010 that we talked about, which is the year. So you definitely would have been in the time period where it could have been possible for you to get social media from a very young age. But it sounds like you at least feel like not having it was a benefit to you. Even though you chose around
About
15, not having it for those first 15 years was good for you. Eli, you feel like waiting 18 years was good for you. And Evan, you feel like having a period of time without it was good for you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I want to cover one more thing real quick. So the whole point of the book being called The Anxious Generation is that it talks about how mental illness has gone up considerably for young folks growing up now. And it has two conclusions. We're talking about social media here. So it points to two main factors. Since we're talking about social media, I'm sticking to that. But social media, it says, get these facts. So since 2010, suicide amongst millennials and Gen Z has gone up 167%. Cases of self-harm have gone up 188%. And instances of clinical depression have gone up 145%. If I were to tell you that I'm going to give you something that is going to increase the likelihood that you're going to harm yourself 188%, cause you to be depressed 145%, and contemplate or actually conduct suicide 167% of the time, what would you say? Would you willingly say, yes, I would like that, please?
No.
Unless it was something that benefits my health like completely in another way. Like, I don't know, say it was like a cancer treatment or something like that. There's no way I would just willingly want that.
You know what? It's really interesting that you say, I want your guys' opinion too. It's really interesting that you say that, because one of the arguments made in the book, I would summarize as adults, we don't view giving a child a smartphone to be this dangerous because it is beneficial to us in so much of the way that we live, right? So we're able to stay connected, get more work done, be more productive. So to us, it's a tool of productivity. And we don't really consider the fact that for younger people, it's not. It's a source of increased self-harm, depression, and suicide. What do you guys think? Would you knowingly give someone something that was going to be that harmful to them if you knew it was that harmful?
No.
What if I told you that those numbers were specific to young women? What would you say to that?
I would say maybe it could have something to do with comparison aspects, because I feel like it's probably a lot more common in women for them to go on there and see, like, I don't know. For me personally, if one of my friends posted something, I'm not going to like be looking at them and like comparing how I look to them, really. But I feel like it's a lot more common in women. So I don't know. I mean, that's what I thought of when I heard that.
Yeah. It's just really scary, right? So the numbers do go up for all young people, but those numbers in particular are shocking when it comes to the fact that those are just the young ladies. So parents, this episode's for you as you're thinking about it, but you should really think twice, long and hard about the role social media has in your kids' lives. Because that's staggering. Like you wouldn't, I don't know, scary. So we just hit lightly. Lightly is a bad word when you talk about suicide, self-harm, and depression. We talked briefly, we just hit the subject lightly about social media and kind of an approach that you could use to help. So if I'm going to summarize the episode about social media, you guys said that the greatest reason you eventually wanted to get out it was that you felt like you might be missing out on things. Turns out that was true in every instance, so that's a real thing. But what you summarized would say is that the thing you were missing out on were interactions with people that were on the fringes of your friend group, not your actual friends. Mm-hmm. You were able to still connect with them. Texting is a good thing. I don't think we specifically said that, but a couple times that still being able to text and communicate with people was good. Yeah. So that's still good. You guys suggested avoiding the comment section, stick to the content itself because the trolls live in the comments and you really can't control what other people are going to say. And it's much more the Wild West. Mm-hmm. You talk about the dangers of comparing yourself to others as one of the things you don't really enjoy about it. You did confirm it is a waste of time. Evan is a huge fan of the time limit that is on his phone because it prevents him from wasting so much time. Isn't that right, Evan?
No.
All right. He's tolerant of it. And then we talked about really like as parents, you need to be asking yourself if you knew that something you were going to do to your child would increase the likelihood of self-harm by 188%. And I know what you're thinking. Well, maybe that goes from like 1 out of 1,000,000 to 2 out of 1,000,000. No, it's like it goes from a couple hundred out of every 100,000 people go. This is going to the hospital for self-harm. Goes from like 200 out of 100,000 to 400 out of 100,000. So that is a significant amount of people who go. That is a significant number of people who go to the hospital out of self-harm. And then once again, it was going to make them 145 more percent. It's going to make them 145% more depressed. You wouldn't give that to your child, but yet the research in this book, The Anxious Generation, says that's exactly what we're doing. So parents, consider that before you give your young children before the age of 14 or so a smartphone. We really leverage the financial incentives to try to keep them off. Amount of money that would be meaningful to them, let them make the choice. But you know your kids better than anybody else, so please just protect them from social media. Because as the kids pointed out, having some time to play and be amongst your peers and experience the real world helped them tremendously once they did have the social media. All right, don't forget to like and subscribe the channel on YouTube or wherever you find your podcast. The Doing Life Together podcast is everywhere now. We really appreciate you. We'll be coming up with episodes on generosity, a follow-up episode on our two-parter on living your best life, and lots more amazing content. Until then, get out there and live your best life.